You guys looking to get into USPSA but don't have the money to start reloading yet? This crap will make you look like you know what you're doing. Hey guys, Work here, welcome back to the bench. Today we're going to be talking about ammo. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the offering from Federal, the Syntech. Now, as all of my guns are 9mm, obviously the ammo that I'm testing is in 9mm. And these are synthetic jacketed 150 grain projectiles. So instead of a full metal jacket like you would find in most of your range ammo, we're using a red synthetic jacket. Now, this red synthetic jacket, from what I understand, the couple of purposes that it has is it will reduce backsplash. As it says right here on the box, less backsplash. Because there's nothing actually holding the lead together in here other than this polymer coating they've got on here. So the lead's just going to smack and splatter all over the place, but you're not going to get that bounce back that you get with typical full metal jackets. In addition to that, apparently it runs a little bit better through the rifling, and you're less likely to have buildup in your rifling. So cleaner guns, a little bit less likely to get a little bit of bounce back. That's always nice and good. Couple other things is it is a heavy for caliber, 150 grains. 9mm, most of the time the heaviest you're going to find is 147 grain. And you know, this tips into the scales a little bit heavier than that. It is the official match ammo for USPSA. So with that 150 grain projectile, they do guarantee that it meets your power factor requirements. Again, stated right here on the box. Now, I don't have a chronograph and I don't have any measurement tools to be able to measure powder weight that much, but from what I've seen, supposedly these are supposed to have 3 grains of powder in them. And someone that I saw, they actually commented on one of my posts, said that after he pulled it apart, he found 3.8 grains of powder in it, which kicked the velocity up and actually was well over power factor rather than just hitting that power factor number, which is generally speaking what you want in a minor shell. You want, because the closer to that minimum power factor that you're going to get, the more controllable your follow-up shots are, which is really important with a minor power factor where those alphas mean a lot. Now, I've run this thing through 4 different firearms. I've run it through my SP01, my Remington R1 1911, Builder Shooters Glock 34, and a borrowed STI SDV 3-gun from Applied Ballistics. Thanks goes out to Applied Ballistics for being able to help me set all this up. They helped me out a little bit with ammo pricing. They helped me out with a gun rental on that STI, and they got me on a lane every time where I was able to talk to you guys as I was shooting these. So let's go ahead and flip over to our range video, and I'll see you when you get back. Hey guys, so we are at Applied Ballistics right now. We're getting ready to run a couple of test rounds here. So what we've got is, we've got the Federal Syntech ammo. This, I don't think, it's not really a new offering, but our local gun store here just became a supplier of this stuff. So we're going to test this stuff out. It's primarily based for competition use. So we're going to be sticking to competition guns for this particular one. Today I've got my SP01 with me, as well as a borrowed Glock 34, both relatively common competition pistols. We're going to see how those function compared to my just blinking ammo here, which is Midwest Ammunition's, just their 9mm reman, courtesy of Applied Ballistics. And basically, I'd just be doing a heads up. We're going to be running side by side. I'm going to run 5 rounds of the 115 grain Midwest, followed by 5 rounds of the 150 grain Syntech. That's going to give us a general idea of what the recoil impulse is going to be like compared to each other, because I just use the 115 grain when I'm out doing competitions and stuff. So then we'll do a little bit of rapid fire with full mags of the Syntech, and we'll finally finish off with some accuracy stuff. I'm not the best shooter, you guys know this, I've told you this before, but we'll go ahead and see what we can pull off accuracy-wise compared to the 115 grain, and we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's load up some ammo and get shooting. So this ammo is poly-coated ammo. You can see it's got that red poly coating. Looks kind of like lipstick. It's not overly smooth, but supposedly I believe it helps with barrel galling. So you're not going to get the buildup in the barrel. It's going to be a little bit slicker. It's going to like lubricate it. I don't know. And so we're going to be starting with 5 rounds of 115 grain. and ending with the 5 rounds of the Syntech. And first up, we're going to be using my SPO1 here. So let's go ahead and get some of these downrange. We are shooting at 7 yards, so let's go ahead and send some downrange. Again, first we're doing the 115 grain. Okay, there's the 5 rounds, 115. Now we're moving to the Syntech. Okay. So the impulse is actually smoother. It's less snappy. It's more of a push rather than a pop, which 115 grain isn't in this gun isn't really poppy anyway. I'm going to do the same thing. A couple less rounds. I'm going to pop in. Let's do 5 rounds of the Syntech. But let's only do 3 rounds of 115 grain. That way I can get back up to the Syntech pretty quick. Okay. Okay. So it's cycling fine in the SPO1. I'm going to run a full mag through it now. Same results that time. It's a nice push rather than a pop. I feel like follow-ups are going to be quicker. I'm going to run 5 slow rounds through this one, and then we'll do 5 quick rounds just to kind of get some speed shots in there. And thanks to Applied Ballistics for tossing me in the rifle bay today. The pistol bay is extremely full, so it's kind of nice to be over here where it's quiet. All right, let's do 5 slow rounds and then 5 quicker rounds. Okay, I'm gonna do some double taps now. Okay, I'm gonna run the 115 grain again. Just do doubles in the 115 grain. Just to kind of get an idea of the difference in controllability between the two of them. Okay, so actually, oddly enough, the 115 grain follow-up is easier. So it may just be because I'm used to shooting it. I shoot a lot of 115 grain, but it was, I don't know, it was kind of weird. I didn't expect that. So let's run 6 of the Federals. Those are going to come after 6 of the 115 grains. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, no, at that time it was a little bit, pretty much identical between the two as far as follow-ups go. Let's do a 5-shot with the SPO1. Do a 5-shot group with the SPO1. I'm sticking to the left side of the target with the SPO1. So we'll do a 5-shot group on the bottom target, and then we'll swap over to the 34. We'll move over to the right-hand target. I'll do the 34 comparison on the top one, and then we'll do the grouping on the bottom one. So let's go ahead and do the 5-shot grouping with the Federal. Okay. We'll check that out after I run the, after I get the 34 done. So now let's swap over to the 34. Again, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do 5 shots of the 115 grain, and then we'll swap over and do 5 shots of the Federal just to check overall recoil. Actually, I'm just gonna do 5 shots first through the 34 with 115 grain because I have not shot this 34 in a couple of years. So kind of need to remind myself recoil and stuff on the 34. I hate with Glock how you have to get that extra tap in there. The CZ, just smooth and nice and drops it. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead and run 5 rounds of just 115 grain through the 34 so I can kind of get a refresher on it. And I'm definitely not as good a shot with the 34 as I am with the SPO1. All right, so now let's go ahead and swap. Let's go do, so I'm putting in the 5 rounds at the Federal right now, but we're not gonna see the 5 rounds at the Federal until after 5 rounds of the 115 grain. So there's 5 rounds of the Federal and 5 rounds of the Midwest Industries 115 grain. See? Every time. All right, 115 grain. The Federal. Okay, I feel like the difference was actually bigger in the Glock than it was in the SPO1. I'm guessing it's because of just the sheer weight of the frame. To show you, I'm going to alternate. So I'm going to do 6 shots. And let's do 8 shots. So I'm gonna alternate 115 grain and then the Federal underneath it. So we're gonna go 115 Federal, 115 Federal. Haha, it worked that time. Okay, so we're starting with 115, then it's going to Federal. Again, it's a bigger difference with the 34 than it was with the SPO1. Let me go ahead and run 5 rounds. Let's run 6 rounds so I can get follow-ups. See how controlled the follow-ups are. We'll do 6 rounds of 115, and then we'll do 6 rounds of the 150 Federal. 12 rounds. Okay. All right. So 115 round Midwest first, then the Federal. Again, it's much more noticeable in 34 than it was the SPO1. Let me swap back to the SPO1 for a minute. Yep, definitely more noticeable in the 34 than it is the SPO1. Okay, so let's go ahead and swap to our 5-round accuracy test on the 34. And we'll pull the targets up and see what we pulled off. I do see an errant double shot from the SPO1 on the 5-shot stack for the SPO1. So we'll discount that one. I wasn't really aiming that last bunch. Okay, 5 shots Federal, Glock 34. Okay. And I'm not good with this Glock, so keep that as warning. Builder shooter, if you see this, don't judge me on the grouping size. Through those last 2. So here we got it. So this is the SPO1 over here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, makes about a 2-inch grouping. Again, I will admit I'm not the best shot. And over here with the 34, we got 3 really nice ones, and I don't know what the hell I did there. Anyway, obviously it's capable of significantly closer groups than I am capable of shooting, but that's a pretty common thing. Most of the time when you throw shots, it's not the gun, it's not the ammo, it's the shooter. All right, guys, so we're back at the range today. We're back at Applied Ballistics. Today we are going to keep trying out this the Federal Syntech, the 150 grain that we did the last time. This time we're going to run it in the STI DBC3 gun and my Remington R1 Enhanced. Both again are in 9mm. So first we're going to start off with the R1 Enhanced, then we'll swap over to the STI. I've never shot an STI first, so the STI is going to end up being a full mag of just 115 grain, and then we'll go on to the Syntech there. But for my R1, we're going to run 5 rounds of 115 grain from Midwest Ammo. Then we're going to do 4 rounds of the Federal Syntech 115 grain. Looks like point of impact shifted on that. Let's run another 5 grain, or 5 of the 115 and 4 of the 150. Okay, so similar to the SP01, I am noticing the recoil impulses. It's different with the 150, obviously it's going to be. Seems to be, I don't know, the biggest difference thus far is just the change in the sound, but you do notice a little bit different recoil impulse with it. It's not a straight back recoil impulse like I would kind of expect for a heavy grain bullet like this. We're going to run an entire mag now of the 150. Let's see what that does. Okay. Getting a little bit more used to it now. It is less snappy. It's more, you can definitely feel the slide a little bit more intently. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but that's what I'm going to go with. You can feel the slide doing what it does. It's not for some reason the slide reciprocation isn't quite as quick, so it's more deliberate in the slide movement. So let's go ahead and do another 10 rounds. Not 10, 9. It's a 1911. Grouping's off a little bit. Getting a decent grouping on top, getting a decent grouping, but you guys know I'm not a great shot, so whatever. Let's go ahead and do they seem to be functioning okay. Let's go ahead and do a 5-round accuracy test with them, and then we'll switch over to the DBC. We'll check that group out after we're done. That was the left-hand side, so now we'll switch over to the STI. We'll do those on the right-hand side, and we'll go from there. Now, as I said, I've never shot a 2011 before. Thus far, obviously it's big in the hand compared to a normal 1911. I've got 10 rounds, I think, of just the 115 grain Midwest ammo in here. Let's go ahead and run that. It feels a lot like a 1911 thus far. Okay, I had one flyer there. So I mean, so far it's a nice balanced 1911 feel. Again, I've never shot a 2011 before, so that was kind of cool. Okay, so now we're gonna do 5 rounds of Syntech, preceded by 5 rounds of 115 grade Midwest. So this is Midwest first, Syntech second. All right, so Midwest. Now is the 150 grain. Okay, so I think the recoil impulse is a bigger change in the 2011 than it was in the 1911. The feeling part of that is frame material. The 1911 is a complete steel frame. The 2011 has this plastic grip, which is going to reduce the weight a little bit. For craps and giggles, I'm going to load up 6 rounds of 150 grain in this, because the mag is big enough that I can actually do that with this one. And 6 rounds of the 115 grain. So I'm going to do double taps, 115 grain. So we're going to have 3 115 grain double taps. Then we're going to have 3 150 grain double taps. See how the recoil impulse change adjusts how quick we can get back on target. Okay, didn't change it too much. I did throw one pretty low that time, but that, I'm gonna try a couple of double taps with the 1911 really quick. Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, that is actually nice and controllable. Again, I think it makes more of a difference in the 2011, but the 1911, it is less snappy, just a little bit, but enough to make a difference. So let's go ahead and take all this stuff back to the tabletop and we'll finish up there. Okay guys, so as you see, kind of mixed results, really. It seems like the heavier frames are going to see less of a benefit from going with the 150 grain as compared to the 115 grain. The lighter frame firearms seem to do a little bit better with the heavier projectiles, and I think some of that has to do with that power factor and the snappiness of the round. Now, Applied Ballistics did also help me out with tearing a couple of these down. We're going to grab the projectile out of one, just kind of give it a look and see what we're dealing with, and then we're going to do a couple little tests with them. So the projectiles are pretty large, and they are crimped extremely well. Applied Ballistics pulled these for me, and they had a heck of a time getting these projectiles out. I don't know if it's this polymer, or if it was actually really nice crimping, but these projectiles were really stuck in there. Again, I don't have any measurement equipment to be able to measure the power load, so we're not going to be going over how much powder, what type of powder, or anything like that, because I don't reload, so I don't know those things. But what we are going to do is we're going to check this coating on these projectiles a little bit. As you see, it did get a little galling on its way out. Technically, it shouldn't do that under fire because the case is going to expand and kind of let go before the projectile comes out. But when you're pulling them cold like this, it does damage that casing a little bit. So let's go ahead and grab one of these. Let's take it down and test it for heat really quick. We're just going to get the back warm, see what heat does to it, see if it changes the composition at all, kind of what it looks like, what it feels like. We'll kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and go down and do a heat test. So we've got one of the projectiles here to the 150 grain Federal Syntech. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what heat does to this. We're going to hit it with a blowtorch for just a little bit. I don't want to like simulate it getting too hot, but I want to get it hot enough to maybe compromise the polymer. Then we're just going to rub it on our piece of steel that we used in our friction test for our oil test. We're going to see if it leaves any of its polymer coating here on our steel. As you see, I mean, this is just bare and it's not really doing much to it. It's not leaving any marks on there. So we're good there, but let's go ahead and heat it up. Heat it up a little bit. Ooh, that did not take much to compromise that. And then let's rub it on here. And I'll tell you, it didn't leave anything on there, but it drastically changed the friction rate on there. Oh, it doesn't smell good either. You can see here that it has decolored a little bit. I'll do this right in front of the camera for you guys so you can see. I mean, it decolors really quick and it starts to melt, but it doesn't actually come off. But I'll tell you, it does become tacky as it's warm, and as it cools down it becomes slicker. I mean, you can hear that now gripping on our steel here. Again, it's not leaving any residue, but I mean, you could definitely it changed. Okay, so as you see from our heat test, it does discolor pretty darn quick. And it does get tacky when it gets hard. So that concerns me a little bit as far as in the barrel, what it's doing, how tacky it's really getting. Let's go ahead and grab just a file, and I want to see how tough this coating is to see. I mean, they're pretty banged up just from pulling them, but let's go ahead and see. Yeah, that coating is, I mean, it comes right off of there, so it doesn't really... Let's see what it does on our trusty steel rod that we've been using on everything. You can just rub it on there and see what happens. Okay, well, in that situation, it really didn't do much. I don't see any severe wear marks on it where I was just rubbing it, so that's good. I mean, you would expect a file to tear through that pretty quick, and then underneath is just lead, so... But it does worry me that it gets tacky when it gets warm. So before I come to any final conclusions, I do need to talk about one thing that happened to me. So, I've been running my SPO1 for about 2 years now. I've got thousands of rounds through it, and I've never had a malfunction that has been the gun itself. I've had one malfunction with it. It was the magazine, the base plate slid off and all of the ammo dumped out, but the gun itself has always functioned flawlessly. Until this guy. So this guy, this was not the last round in the mag, it was about the 5th from the last round in the mag, and on its way up and in, the round actually hit the feed ramp, and it was upside down like this. The round hit the feed ramp, and the feed ramp, you can see the line that the feed ramp smashed into the front of this round. Generally speaking, that's not really an issue. Most 9mm rounds have a really nice lead-in up there. These flat ones, obviously most flattened rounds have a little bit more problem feeding, but I don't think these would have the same problem if they were full metal jacketed. It's that weak poly coating that grabbed onto the feed ramp, and I got a failure to feed with this. Had to drop the mag to get the round out. So be aware of that. The SPO1 is the only gun that I had feeding issues with it in, but the SPO1 has also run way more of this stuff than any of my other guns. Thus far, I've probably run about 500 rounds of this stuff, and it's run really well, except for that. So final conclusions, though. As I said earlier, in the steel guns, you don't really notice much of a difference. It's not a drastic difference that you would think it would be going from 115 grain to 150 grain, but lowering those velocities. You would think that it would change recoil from a snap to a push. It does to an extent, but not to the extent that you would think that it would, based on my experience anyway with other calibers and rounds. Yeah, it didn't feel any different that time. It didn't feel that different. And I have a feeling it's because these are slightly over powdered, which is giving them a little bit higher velocity than they should have, which is in turn producing a little bit more felt recoil. So really follow-up shots with these are no quicker than with my 115 grains. I'm no more comfortable with this than 115 grain. I've run quite a few rounds through there now, and I could swap back and forth pretty easily and not worry about sight tracking or anything. So in the end, is it worth it? It all depends on what you want and what you can afford. This stuff is, I believe, around $14 a box. $14 a box for the quality of ammo and the consistency of ammo that you're getting here is really good, actually. The primers in here are good primers. It's good brass. The projectiles are seated very well, so you're not gonna get set back. For instance, just for craps and laughs, let's take this guy that took a nosedive into the SPO1. He's got an overall length of about 1.116. And now, let's take a brand new, unfired, right out of the box, 1.117. So, I mean, as I said, this guy nosedived into the feed ramp of an SPO1, and honestly, 1/1000th of an inch in difference in length, that's just variation of manufacturing process. So the crimp is really good. You're not going to have to toss around just because you loaded it. You're not going to have to really worry about overpressurization. So they are well built rounds. And again, if you are looking for ammo and the other ammo that you're looking at is in that $14 to $15 price range, if you're shooting USPSA, this stuff is actually a pretty good buy, I think. The 150 grain projectile should, in theory, carry momentum a little bit better to be able to drop steel a little bit easier and more consistently. Now, I will say this, you do definitely feel this in the gun, that extra grain weight in the end. When you've got a handful of this stuff and a handful of 115 grain, you can feel the difference. You can feel that this is heavier. Now, it's not out at the end of the gun. It's not like a longer barrel or like a longer barrel shroud, which is going to change your target transition a little bit, but you are going to feel it a little bit in the grip. So take that into consideration. If you're already looking for ammo in even the $13 range, I would say if you're looking for ammo anywhere between $13 to $15 to be taking to USPSA, I would seriously look into this stuff. It's consistent, it's reliable, as long as it feeds, and you're not going to find a better ammo for the price. Now, if you're looking for cheaper stuff, if you're looking at $10, $11 a box of 50, 9mm, like the 115 grain stuff, for you, I'm not sure that it's a super good payoff. I will say that the reman ammo that I use, that Midwest stuff, I do have more issues with it and consistency than I do with pretty much any other ammo I have. Now, I run that because I go through a lot of ammo and I go through a lot of testing, but if you're looking at like Winchester White Box, Remington, if you're looking at that lower end stuff, you may not, I've never had any problems with Winchester White Box. It's always shot relatively consistently for me, but I know some people don't like it. I know some people have issues for it. So if you're looking to spend, again, in that $13 to $15 range, I would say this is the direction to go. Buy a few boxes, make sure it cycles in your gun. Again, the only gun that I had a problem with was one round in the SPO1 in probably about 300 rounds through that particular gun. But that one round, to me, I'm going to run quite a bit more of this ammo through my SPO1 before I'm comfortable running it in a competition. Now, if I were running the Glock 34, if I were running the 1911, if I were running the 2011, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable running it, but I also haven't put as many rounds through those, so I may get in the middle of competition and find out that they have the same problem too, especially with the 1911. 9mm 1911s are notorious for feed ramp issues. So, that's it for this time, guys. Review on the Federal Syntech ammunition, an affordable option so that us regular guys going to competition can jump on the poly jacket train. Remember, guys, if you found this video useful, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. If you're looking forward to any of our upcoming content, go ahead and hit that notification bell. Remember, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.